Welcome to Barrier Breakers, a podcast celebrating resilience and triumph over adversities. Expect raw, honest conversations filled with practical advice and life lessons. Now, on to today's episode. Welcome back to episode 10 of Barrier Breakers.
So softly spoken. Welcome back.
Welcome back. We talked about this. It's
We
like
did
the
talk about
opening
this.
for Young and the Restless and
Yeah,
all of
it's like
those. Yeah.
Previously.
On Barrier Breakers. Today is the tale of Tera Jones.
Hello.
She is a badass in all things. And Tera, just like we told the previous triumph victors before you, we do not come into today's meetings with an agenda
Or preconceived notions.
We truly just want to get to know you, your why, what makes you you. And we have found that typically starts at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So tell us about Tera's childhood.
Well, okay. So
Here we go.
Y'all ready for this? Buckle up. No. So I was born in Northern Illinois, in Rockford, Illinois, and it's maybe like 20 minutes from the Wisconsin border. So it's way up there. And then when my dad I was probably 3, almost 4. And my dad, there was a lot of factory work up there and there was nothing going on. So we moved to Oklahoma, and that was like my favorite place in the whole world. So we moved there and I was 3, almost 4. And we left there when I was in 2nd grade, and I ended up here in Tennessee, 3rd grade. So that's how I ended up here with you. But in Oklahoma, it was my favorite place. That's where all the good stuff and what I feel like shaped me as a person.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of, just to sum that up, it's where I learned to ride a horse. I learned to fall off, which means I learned how to get back on.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
Good.
And then it's also where I met Jesus.
Mhm.
You know, I was born into a believing family. Like, my whole family went to church. But, you know, you got to have that moment where you meet him yourself. And that's where I did. I was in a Christian private school in Sapulpa, Oklahoma.
Mhm.
And
I lived in Sapulpa. That's really
You
crazy.
did?
Did you really?
Really crazy.
No way.
Yeah.
Like, people are like, Sapulpa, is that like by Oklahoma City? I'm like, no, it's by Tulsa.
No.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
That's a whole other
nuts.
story.
I mean, like, time out. No.
yeah, like Jinx, Bixby, Tulsa, Sapulpa.
Wow. That is great. When you were a kid?
When I was, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, we'll have to chat on
Yeah,
I
for
didn't
sure.
know that, Gentry. You're just multifaceted,
that.
friend.
Yeah, like everyone from here doesn't get it. They're all either from here.
That's
or
what I was
like
going to
north or
ask you.
south,
Like,
but,
I was going to ask you. I was like, please tell me it was Sapulpa. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It did. I went to Sapulpa Christian School.
All right.
Yeah,
Look at that.
crazy.
Barrier Breakers connecting people from across the country.
Yeah. Right here in Tennessee.
Why all up in here and not hey, y'all move to Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
We're not saying what we do for a living. We're just saying.
Yeah, yeah. It's a good place to
Yeah.
live, raise babies.
Mhm.
But anyway, that's where I met Jesus. It's where I just kind of, life kind of shaped me. It's where I loved it so much when we had to move from there, was because my dad worked for a company that made oil rigs, and just, oil is big in Texas and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And when that fell out, we ended up here, and he worked at Boeing, and we've been here ever since. But when we left, it ripped my heart out. It ripped my heart out. And when I left Illinois, it ripped my heart out. And I have since learned that, tracking back to my 3-year-old self, that everything I've ever been super attached to, I've been pulled from.
Mhm.
And so it kind of, looking back now, I can see where I developed some tendencies in my adulthood,
Yeah.
and maybe some anxiety.
Yep.
Not even like, a lot of people think anxiety is such a bad thing, but it's really our body's response to the way we feel.
Yes.
And so sometimes anxiety can be like, there's no place for it, but sometimes it's your brain saying, hey, hold up, you need to take care of yourself for a sec.
Mhm.
And I've learned that. And so looking back from my childhood, which I know we kind of chatted for a second, about this, and that was one of the things I learned, And so my childhood was amazing. I had ponies, I had goats, I had kittens, I had dogs. Yeah, so it was fun. Good stuff.
So you guys moved here as a family to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. To Oak Ridge.
Yes. Okay. To Oak Ridge. Did you graduate from Oak Ridge High School?
No, my parents moved to Clinton the middle of my freshman year. So my freshman year, I was in Oak Ridge, but it was when they had junior high.
Yes.
So my ninth grade year was at Jefferson.
Mhm.
And then I moved to Clinton. It was like shock. But
Not even that far away, but different. Yeah.
And again, you look back and you see things and how it shapes you. But I was so rooted in Oak Ridge and I loved it. And I got pulled from it.
Mhm.
There's always that trend in my life, right? And so looking back now though, I see how God like wove things together.
Sure.
Because now I'm still friends with a lot of people I grew up with in Oak Ridge. And I'm still friends with all the people I connected with in high school in Clinton.
Mhm.
And I just have more people, more blessings in my life. So it's pretty cool.
It's a good way to look at it.
So you graduate high school. What does Tara do from there?
Well, I started out going for an ag degree. I was at Roan State getting ready to transfer. I took a lot of hours, like 23 hours in a semester. It was insane.
Wow.
And then my dad brought the idea of massage therapy school, and I pivoted and I went to Chattanooga for about a year. It was before it was such a popular thing. This was in the 90s. So
Mhm.
it was before it was like super popular to be in massage therapy school, and the colleges didn't have courses. It was, you had to find an institution somewhere, and mine was a year long, full on anatomy, all that. So I did that. I did it for a while, and then I got married, and my husband joined the Navy, and it pulled me from here. So I really didn't do massage after that. So I love it, believe in it. But truthfully, I like getting them better than I like giving them.
Don't we all? Yeah.
So I'll just be honest. I love the work. I believe in it. I love helping people, but I have a hard time being in a dark room all day.
Mhm.
Like I like to be out and about talking. Like,
Yes. Mhm.
here we are. What else you want to talk about? So yeah, that. And then I ended up, we were in Virginia Beach. We were in Chicago for a while, then Virginia Beach. And then 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, my husband was sent out and I came back home. And so then when all that was over and he came home, and we've been here ever since.
So he went to war after 9/11.
He did. He was headed to Iraq,
Mhm.
but he had had eye surgery prior to leaving, and it did not go so hot. The Navy did PRK. It was kind of like their form of LASIX.
Yeah.
And so he ended up getting flown home because his eyes were kind of off. But yeah, we were, gosh, I'll never forget that day. Whew, that day.
When you had to tell him bye.
No, the day 9/11 happened.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
okay. Yeah. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Oh gosh. So, they hit down the coast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were 3 hours below DC, and when the Pentagon got hit, we thought we were next. And, a lot of times as civilians, like out here, you don't see and hear what's happening on base.
Internally.
Yes.
But even
Yeah.
as a civilian, because even though I was a military spouse, I'm still a civilian because I'm not enlisted, right? So even if you're living that life, you see things that you don't, like sitting at Applebee's and the bomb threat happened and the whole thing shut down. I'm sure you get that stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, no, it was like we thought we were next, but there was like unidentified divers popping up in between the ships that didn't really ever hit the news. Once they released that top 10 list of people that were wanted in the world, they thought one of them was on actually my ex-husband's ship. He's my ex-husband now, but his ship, it was in dry dock. They thought somebody had snuck on there to work. This man looked identical to somebody, but it wasn't him. There was somebody taking pictures of ships on the bridge. I mean, like we're driving and we're seeing this stuff. Like I remember being on the ship one night before 9/11, and when all this stuff started happening, I would have flashbacks. But we had taken him dinner, if they have duty or whatever, that's to stay. So my oldest daughter was 2, and so we tracked it on up to the ship and took dinner. And we were standing out on the flight deck, and I looked over and I saw somebody pop. And I was like, "What are they doing? Are they working?" And he was like, "I don't know." But now we know there was unidentified divers just popping up everywhere. I mean, they could have just been anybody.
Yeah.
Could have been somebody. You just don't know. And so we thought we were next. And then I know Oak Ridge at home, everyone thought they were next because of the nuclear stuff. But I remember being so free on base to come and go places, and everything went on lockdown.
Yeah.
And it was just so real. And then I remember I'm a big supporter of veterans, and this is partly why I will always be thankful for people that fight for our freedom, first
Absolutely.
and foremost. But in those days, oh gosh, I might cry on you. In those days, I remember driving to the base and watching people unload their husband and their daddy, and they'll never see him again, and it's a hard life to live. And we owe so much gratitude to the people that walk that life, especially that are lifers
Mhm.
and retire from it. So sorry.
Oh,
No, you don't
you're
have to
good.
apologize here.
We have the
Yeah.
Kleenex for a reason. And my husband he's in the Air Force, so while
Yes.
he's deployed, but he's never had to go during wartime.
Yeah.
We definitely appreciate
Yes, absolutely.
the sacrifices the men and
Yes.
women make and their families
Yes.
to the people they have to say goodbye to. We owe it all to them,
Absolutely.
truly.
Yes. And I didn't realize until he joined, and I don't know how it is now, but there were so many people that joined the military because they had such a bad home life and they were getting out of that. They just wanted away from home or they needed a way to make a living. And so they would commit their life to it. And to think about somebody who didn't have the best life at home and is willing to go lay their life down for me
Mm-hmm.
and my family
Yeah.
and the rest of us, knowing, that a lot of times we have a selfish attitude. Well, my life stinks and I need to better this. And why am I not like them or whatever? And here's this person that's in a struggle and they're like, let me go fight war for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's an ultimate sacrifice
Absolutely.
and it's respectable. And it's like, I mean, it burns me up when people do not appreciate, support, and respect the people that have done that for us.
Same.
Well, we see it in our line of work often. So, guys,
Yep.
Tera Jones here is actually a real estate agent as well. She
Yes.
is a queen at what she does. And so
Yeah.
we often see that, people not wanting to take a VA
Yes.
From,
offer.
from the lending side too.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm just like,
Mm.
I have things to say and I
Yeah.
have to be
Mhm.
nice.
I think we all do, especially that's our front line, right?
Yes,
Like their
for
front line, our
sure.
front line, our front line is now helping them
Help-
get into a home.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it blows my mind. I'm like, so this man would take a bullet for you, but you don't want to build a rail to get the loan.
Yeah.
That's good.
You could just put up a piece of wood
Yeah.
and tear it down. I'm
Yeah.
saying this in front of a loan
Yeah.
officer. But these are the things that we've done. You don't
Where's the
wanna-
noise canceling headphones?
La la la.
it can all be so simple.
Yes.
And humans love to make it hard.
Absolutely.
A lot of
There's-
it is the people that are uneducated.
I was going to say a lot of it is miseducation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It is miseducation, and it's people who don't. I'm very passionate, so I'm going to try to tone it down a little bit. But it's seriously, it's like you can't consider the cost,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people, it's very uneducated and there's a lot of misnomers, and people that just speak and they have no idea what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
One
look-
of our clients, I don't know if you know, we have under contract right now in Loudon.
Oh yeah,
He actually went and fought. He was in the army in
Mhm.
Iraq and was in gunfire.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're my friends as well and also my neighbors. And as I'm helping them buy and sell real estate, I'm more involved and I'm in their home life and
Mm-hmm.
hearing more about what he went through. And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
sorry, the guy that was with him too when they were shot at, he's not doing so well.
Mm.
Can you pass me one of those tissues? Sorry. And so it's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
I don't
shame.
think people realize because I have quite a few friends that are either in the military now or they're out, and I don't think that people realize what they carry.
Yeah.
And for us, a storm rolls through and thunder claps, and it's a storm. But for them, they're triggered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know one guy flew under the bed, and before he knew it, he was like, "Wait, what just happened?"
Mhm.
That was his initial response from, the hell he walked through.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the anxiety and the claustrophobic, and I mean, PTSD is real.
Real.
Mhm.
I've got friends that won't not sleep by the front door. They sleep in the living room or wherever their door is to
Yeah.
make sure nobody comes in on their phone because they just can't let their guard down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm like, gosh, and you don't want to put a rail up on the porch
I know.
to let them
Mhm.
get a VA loan. I mean, I had one that we built a wall. We had to build an entire wall to get the loan. We'll figure out a way.
Mhm.
There is
Do what you
always
gotta
a
do.
way. Yes, always.
And there's no guarantee that it wouldn't be the same if it wasn't a VA loan.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the thing. Like
Yes.
it's all under the same guidelines. You just want to put a name on it and use it as an excuse.
Yeah, we'll do FHA, but not VA. It's
The
the
same.
It's the same.
Same.
Yep.
So real quick, we want to thank all of our listeners
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
family that are veterans
Yes. Thank you.
in our country. Thank you guys, men and
Yeah.
women.
And the spouses, right?
the
Oh yeah, and the
spouses.
spouses, yes.
We'll hold down the fort.
That's right.
Goodness gracious. Yes, we do. So you were married, 9/11 happened.
Mm-hmm.
You guys moved back to Oak Ridge at the time, or just
No, Clinton.
in Clinton? Oh, you
Yeah.
moved back to Clinton. Okay.
Yeah.
How was that?
Well, I was ahead of him because 9/11 happened and I came home. And of course, our youngest daughter was 2. I'm trying to think back. I haven't thought about all this for a while.
I warned you.
It was good. And then he got out and it was a hard transition. I think when, you know, I mean, he's my ex-husband now, but he was a good man. He's a noble man and a humble man, but acts of service, you know, when that's your job every day. And then you come home and you're like, what do I do with myself?
Mhm.
I think that was a hard transition for him, which made it a hard transition for us. But it was good to be back home. But then things turned around and he worked at TVA and we built a little family and it was good. And yeah, I mean, just did normal, nothing really out of the ordinary. I got into real estate in 2005. And then I got out right before the market dip.
Mhm.
And looking back, I wish I would have stayed. So, I mean, lots of life lessons, lots of looking back on stuff like that. And we have 2 girls. My oldest is 23, my youngest is 14, so they're 9 years apart. That's something.
I'm sure. Raising them at 2 different.
Yeah.
One literally hit puberty while the other one was potty training, literally in the same week. And I was like, you're going to be okay, honey. Yay, you did it. I was standing in the hallway and I thought, this is my life right now. So yeah, but yeah, we went to church, kids play sports, and yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something good.
Well, no, I have another
about.
question for you.
Yeah.
He's your ex-husband now.
Mm-hmm.
Are we allowed to ask you what led to you guys parting ways?
Yeah. So I mean, looking back, and he and I have not really talked about this, but it was not by my choice.
Mm-hmm.
He left, and it was heartbreaking and it was devastating. It was a
When
shock.
did this happen?
2019.
Okay.
I don't want to speak on his behalf because we've not really talked out what really happened in his mind.
Sure.
But I think he went through some things. And I think looking back, I see where I watered myself down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave up who I was, you know, that inner child, or, you know, going back to that childhood. There were things I always wanted and dreamed about since I was little. Like they were ingrained in me, and I gave it all up. Yeah. And
did he ask you, or did you, to be the loving wife and devoted mother, you watered yourself down and poured into everybody else?
So, you know, there were times where I would try to pursue things, like I wanted to sing country music.
You have a voice.
A little bit. And so I started working with a vocal coach, and he said, give me a year, I'll have you signed. And that was something he didn't agree. So we just didn't always see eye to eye. He's like, that's no life for a family. Well, I see that that's the truth too. You know, I mean, I can see that. So then I had to internally process all of that. And and it took me a few days to really just like process it. And it was something I felt like I gave up. Mm-hmm. You know, it's something that from 4 years old, you know, hiding when my mom told me to go to bed, and I'm hiding around the corner just so I can watch the Grand Ole Opry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it didn't sit right with me, but I did it. And I did it because, you know, in the Bible it says we're supposed to be submissive to our husbands. And in that moment, in my 20s, I feel like now I was confused on submission.
You're not the only woman out there.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I didn't want to let my family down. And I didn't want, you know, and also, I mean, to the flip side of that, I know God gives you your spouse for a reason, right? And you're a team and you work together. And I thought, okay, if he's having a red flag, I'm going to trust this red flag. But now I'm like, then he left me. I mean, just being
Okay.
honest. And
Yeah, you
Sure.
wouldn't
it's
have had
like,
those
I
two
gave it
girls.
up. Yeah. And then I got an associate's degree and I wanted a bachelor's degree. And I had about a year and a half left. I could have knocked that out. And he didn't want me to finish school. Not because he didn't want me to finish school, but is the timing wasn't right. There was always something not aligning up with us. And in the nutshell of it is it was fixable. Every bit of it was fixable. Just because you don't see eye to eye does not mean it's not fixable.
We have a sign. I don't know if you saw that in my office. It says everything is figure outable.
Yes.
It is. Everyone can win in a partnership.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So to me, it was very sad that it went the way that it did. There's a whole lot of things, that you don't really want your kids to know, so they don't carry some things. So I struggle with being 100% raw on that because I don't want my kids to get wind through the grapevine.
You have to protect them.
Yes.
You're good. We're not going
And
to
so
push you.
I think
Yeah.
I'm going to use this like little platform right now to just say that when you go through divorce, protect your kids.
That's good.
I see
Amen,
people
yeah.
all the time and they're like blasting their business on Facebook. They're fighting and making jabs back and forth, but then they're blocked. So then like, what does that even do? And then their kids see it or
Yeah.
the neighbors see it. And then the neighbors invite your kid over and their kid tells your kid. And then boom, now you've got a mess and you've scarred your kids.
Mhm.
Why? And that is a pet peeve of mine. It really
Jay-Z
is.
said it. And I'm not even a big Jay-Z fan, first and foremost, but he said that when the family feuds, everyone loses.
Yeah.
And that's so true. He's talking about
It
the parents.
is.
Yeah.
Good.
It is. And I mean, I will say, like, all that is said and done, it wrecked me. I mean, it did. He was my best friend. And we were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
And it was hard. Let's see. Where do I want to go with this? Okay, so I feel like God is a God of redemption and he's a God of restoration.
Yep.
And as much as I wanted that to be my marriage and my family, God restored me.
That's good.
Mhm.
He restored Tara. He brought Tara back to herself. And I am like a weight, just the weight that is lifted off through healing. And this is another thing that I'm big on is generational curses.
Yeah.
Breaking those generational curses because the only way you can get better is to fix them, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I feel like through that it made me dive in because I went and I got got some therapy and I broke into my generational curses and we did diagrams and looked in the Bible and we prayed. I mean, very spiritual counselors and we really knocked those out.
What are some of those curses that you've noticed in your family?
So this is crazy.
We love crazy here.
I mean, this is crazy. I'll fit in then because this is nuts. So it's eye opening, right? So I had to do a diagram 2 generations back of my dad's side and my mom's side. And on my mom's side, I never knew my great grandparents on either side. They were all passed away by the time I was born. On my mom's side, like you had to dive into like psychological issues, emotional issues, health issues, like cancer, reflux, whatever, because there's signs and symptoms to all of it, right?
Yeah.
So like you might have anxiety, well that can cause reflux because it gives you, so there's always something tied to it health-wise. So my great grandmother married an angry alcoholic and my grandmother married an angry alcoholic. And that he left and then she married another guy and he was an angry alcoholic who was abusive. They were both abusive to my mom and her sisters. And then my mom married my dad and my dad is a good man. He's not an alcoholic, but this is just kind of like piecing this together. My cousin had gone to therapy and she was told that our family dynamic on my dad's side is like an alcoholic family without the alcohol. And then I married a man who had some anger issues. It was never violent or anything like that, but he he struggled internally, and then in the Navy struggled a little bit with alcohol. He had,
Yeah.
and I say that I don't want to speak for him, but I definitely he shared that at youth one night, shared that with church and publicly. So, but he's not now. So, and it's just crazy how you don't even know those generations, and it trickles
They're
down.
passing something down.
Yeah, I mean, it's like wow. I mean, I didn't even know them.
Yeah.
I didn't even know my grandfathers. Never even met them on my mom's side. So yeah, just crazy. So, but the things that we're breaking, that was crazy. Depression, anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
like the cycle of monotony, of complacency, the cycle of like I don't know what you would call it, but they don't let go. They don't let go of things.
Resentful. What is it called? They harbor. What is it?
Harbor resentment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that's it. It's just like lack of forgiveness.
Yes, unforgiving people.
Yeah, and in their mind they do, but in their heart they don't, because if they didn't, if they
Grudge
did,
holding.
they wouldn't be bringing it up 30, 40 years later, right? And I don't want that for my kids. And then also just be healthy financially, but I want more than that for my kids. I want them to have opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want them, it's not my kids, they know how to work. They don't, they've got everything they need, right?
Yeah.
And that was something, there was financial struggle for me growing up. I mean, that was back to my childhood. We had like the worst car in the school and like all the things.
Yeah.
But
the stories.
yeah, but my dad is such a hard worker, and my parents taught me how to work.
Mm-hmm. And you work, sister.
I work. I do.
Yeah.
And I'm taught my kids how to do the same. And I feel like there's a work ethic missing in the upcoming generations, and I feel like our generation is about to shift that.
Mm-hmm.
Because our generation is healing.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
I have. We were the generation that wanted to break curses we saw in our family.
Yes.
And so for me, it was not just, it was financial, of course. I grew up poor, but just like you, we had alcoholics, we had drug abuse, we had all of this. And so now that I'm healing, I'm like, MJ is going to be financially well off and have the opportunities.
Yeah.
And yet he's going to know how, as an adult, when things get hard, what kind of foundation to have to overcome these feelings of it's hard. What do I do? Do I sink into the couch, or do I, which way do I pivot?
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing, because the other side of it, with us breaking these curses, we have people in our generation who give their kids everything they didn't have. And that is a hindrance to those children.
It spoils them.
It spoils them.
Yes.
I want MJ to be comfortable. And, my in-laws, they both grew up on farms, both hardworking people, and they gave their boys a comfortable life. Their boys have to still work for it. And I'm like, amen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Malcolm will know what opportunities look like, but he will earn every single one of them. You won't be giving it.
Well, and I have this like burden to prepare, not like what do they call those people that like
Doomsday
paranoia?
preppers.
Yeah, I know what you
what
get.
did you call it?
Doomsday preppers.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not like that, but like if something were to happen to me now, or the day that I'm gone, I hope my kids can handle themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not only that, but
That's
the
so
world-
selfless, though.
Yeah, well, I agree. And
No, it's so. I'm telling you, that's so selfless.
Yeah.
That's very, very. I recently lost my father, and like it's so selfless. It's something that we don't really think, and like it's like we act
What
like
do you mean? You're going to live forever, Gentry.
we act
right?
like it's a surprise.
yeah.
Like we act like it's a surprise.
Oh wait, they're not here anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
But did he teach you?
It was very, very shocking. I mean, I know how to, to handle myself, and he was a great father. But there's just a lot of things that I don't really understand. And a lot of that was from his upbringing, because if we could go into that story,
Yeah.
he was like stolen from the hospital and like sold, and
Wow.
it was arranged by like a church organization. So
Wow.
I still don't know who my grandfather
and you're
is.
still sitting here nodding at God. That's amazing.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like people, yeah.
It's people, it's not Christ.
It's
That's
people.
right.
We've had that conversation.
We've had
That
a
is
lot of
right.
conversation. Just because the church hurt me, well, it's no, people hurt you.
Yeah.
The church was a refuge. if you just had a relationship instead of knowledge.
Right. And put your trust in God, not the people.
Yes.
Well, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's part of my upbringing. Like I was like 17 to 25, 26-ish. I lived in like an old covenant mentality. And basically there was the man of God and like Moses. Like God told Moses what to do. Moses told what the people what to do. The people didn't do anything unless Moses told them to. And when they did something on their own, they got into trouble and did stupid stuff and then got cursed. But but it was the old covenant mentality. It's like, well, this is the man of God. This is who God talks to, and he talks to you and you do what he says. And that is so diametrically opposed to Jesus and fulfilling the gospel and what it's actually designed to do. And the veil was torn. And then you get, if they can't clone you, they'll disown you, right? So if the veil was torn, so that means that we all have access. But when you want that access for yourself and you're not, that's rebellion, or it's betrayal. And it's really not. It's really you stepping up to lead how you're supposed to lead. And but that grew up in that old covenant mentality. And when I started to question, what about me? What about my relationship with the Lord? What about what he's telling me to do? What about the prompts that I have and the dreams that I have that he's placed inside me, that I'm not just supposed to be a puppet? And when you do that, then that's when you have to start ducking.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so cool that you say that, because I just had a conversation with a new friend who is Catholic, and in their dynamic, they go to the priest and they go through the motions. And that this is something he has said to me.
Sure.
And we've had conversations about the spirituality side of it. And the thing he keeps saying is, I can feel it. There's more. I can feel it. He keeps saying that. And that's what you just said. And if any other reason than that right there, that's all we need to know that he exists, right? Like there comes your faith. Boom. You got it, because you felt it. Yeah. You know in the pit of your soul that there is something more. And so if you're listening, dig into that.
Greater is coming is how I ended my 2023. I was like, what year is that?
Yeah.
Believing that greater is coming.
Yes. But, and you know, like you were just saying, your dad passed away and you didn't know. Well, the other side of my family was sweep it under the rug.
Yeah. That's that generation. Yeah.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that too.
Yeah. And so I can kind of look back and see why my mom and dad didn't work out either. So, but anyway, all that to say, you know, we were in ministry. We did church was basically our life. I mean, until we split. So it was just really hard, because I didn't want to let the Lord down and give up on my marriage. And so I fought hard. I mean, I fought hard to try to.
I've been through divorce too, and I had so many questions about it.
Yes. And you know, that verse, and is it Micah 2? It says God hates divorce. But if you dive into that and you break it down by the Hebrew.
We talk about this all the time. People know what it says, but they have no idea what it's saying.
God hates a man that leaves his wife. That's what it says. That's what it breaks down to when you break it down by the Hebrew. And so that is what released me, because I kept thinking, God hates divorce. I got to fight. And I was like, I finally just had to say, okay, you take him. You've got me. You know, when he left, one of the big things was career. That was something we didn't see eye to eye. And so I was scrambling, trying to find a job. He'd rather me work for $10 an hour is what he said, or $15 an hour, whatever, instead of being a real estate agent. And I tried, and I kept trying and trying, and I kept going for interviews. And I thought, you know what? I could be selling houses and I'm going for interviews. My time is like not where it needs to be. And I remember sitting on my front porch. We had puppies, and so I had them out running in the yard. And I was just sitting there. I will never forget God saying, I've got you. You need to do what I've created you to do. And I was like, it was so like the hair on my arms stood up. I was like, yes, sir. It was one of those moments, you know, like not a, okay, God. It was like, oh, yes, sir. I'm on it. So I picked myself up, and scared to death, I just ran at it. You know, they say you got a challenge in front of you. I really wasn't working. I kind of would like work real estate. And then if the kids needed me more, I would be with the kids more. Yeah. And then if I was freed up, then I would run hard in real estate. And then, I kind of go back and forth. I had that freedom. And that's what I loved about it, is because I could control my schedule and still be at home with my kids and pick my kids up from school. That was so important to me. And then it changed and everything's on me. And I've had to figure out how to manage my day, manage my time, and still be a mom. And one of those things, I've incorporated 5 a.m. workouts. Everybody's like, how do you do it? I was like, I hate it. I'm not a morning person, but I hate not working out more, and
And
really,
your girls play sports after school.
yes. So it's like, and I found like, okay, I can control my schedule. I can drop my daughter off at school and then go work out. My phone's already going off. So I'm not enjoying my workout. I'm not focused. So it's dragging it out. 2, I'm like by the time I get done and take a shower, it's lunch. Half my work day is gone.
Yeah.
So they deserved more than that. My kids deserved more than that, than half a day of work. So that's it. So I've shifted. I've dug in. I've had to trust God a lot. I've prayed a lot. And the one thing that I will say is He will never leave you nor forsake you. That is 100% the truth.
100% true.
And, He's guided me, showed me what to do. He spoke things into me, get into commercial real estate, get into investors before the need for it was there.
Yeah.
God told me, get at it. And by the time the need was there, I already had my network in place, had everything to stay afloat in this crazy market we're in as a single mom on 100% commission. I know you get it because that's what we do. And I know you get it. That's probably what you do as a lender too. I don't know if they.
Oh yeah.
So
for sure.
And probably as a man, you feel like you got to hold your family on that, right? So the same thing as single mom.
Yeah.
And he never lets you down. So even when you're scared, another thing is that if somebody's listening and you're going through a divorce and you don't know how in the heck you're gonna make it or get through or whatever, you will. And like at the time, I was like, once I came to terms with the actual divorce, like, okay, we're doing this, and we filed, I was mad.
Of course you were.
I mean, I was mad. I
Your
didn't want
best
to look at
friend.
him. I didn't want to see him. I didn't. But now we're friends. We've never, and I will say this too, in all of that, no matter what our feelings are, we have never not co-parented because that is not their fault, the kid's fault. You have to do what's best for them. And so we have made sure that, in fact, one of McKinley's teachers said, I didn't even know y'all got divorced. Y'all done a good job because we didn't even know, and so
That's amazing.
I will just say, like, and I did a video the other day, the power of like, you can get divorced and do right by the kids.
Yes.
That's
you
good.
can get divorced and
We've talked about that a lot.
Yeah. Be respectful of each other. You can get divorced and support each other, and I mean, he's remarried and I'm happy for him, and she's great to my kids, and I wish him the best, I don't hate him. And I think when you can come to that place of forgiveness, that sets you free.
One of the best, it's probably the best things that I've ever learned was true forgiveness is no longer identifying a person by the pain they've caused you.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably one of the most freeing sentences I've ever heard. But it's when that happened. There's a certain person in my life, and someone asked me who it was from my new life, asked me who it was from a former life. And I was just like, oh, that was just this person. And I was, I was like, hey, God, a second, what? But yeah, they asked me who it was. And it was just like, the Lord's just like, true forgiveness is no longer identifying a person by the pain they've caused you. And that's how I knew that was over, is because I didn't have choice words to say. I called them by what their title was when I knew them. And it was so strange to me. And it was very, very foreign because, growing up in church and, we're taught not to hold grudges, but we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why we have to be taught it.
It's a learned behavior,
Yes.
right? It's a learned behavior. And
well, I think sometimes a grudge can be like you're literally just holding it against them. And sometimes it's the effect of the other person's actions that slowly manifest inside, and your reaction to that comes out like a grudge. And there's a difference.
Yeah.
And you can 100% fix both.
Yep. So when
You know?
when that happened, I was all like, "What just happened to me?" But that's how I know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think forgiveness, sometimes it's instant. And when you decide to, you have to decide. But
decide.
once you decide, sometimes that's instant.
mhm.
And sometimes it's a process.
Yep.
Sometimes it's forgiven a little bit at a time until one day you have that moment, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, and that's something I've had to learn. Another thing is as you unbury everything layer by layer, then the next thing, like you might think, okay, I got that, I'm good. And then it's like, wait, now I'm dealing with this. Where'd that come from? That's because you can't deal with it all at once. Your brain is not designed that way.
Yes.
You have to unlayer it and unpack it, and it takes time. And I learned so much about myself. So looking back, I had a little bit of an anxious attachment style, not because I was insecure, but so at Illinois, when I was 3 and I was pulled from all my cousins and my aunts and uncles, I left and that feeling, I'm losing my family. And then went to Oklahoma and I got rooted and I loved it there. I mean, like it's still, when I think about it, it's the happiest place in the whole wide world. And I'm sure if I grew up there and had adult responsibilities, that would have changed. But to think about that, it was like almost magical.
Yep.
And then I got yanked from that. And I had to leave my dog. I mean, everything,
Ugh.
at 7, that's hard. And
Right.
then I moved here and I got rooted. And I mean, I've had good friends. And I mean, it was hard. It was a hard transition to go from a private Christian school into Oak Ridge public school. That was a hard transition. I got made fun of. I didn't know. I showed up in dress pants because we had to wear that to school. I didn't know. They were like, you're not wearing jeans. Like, so I had to process through that. And I got out through that and had some really good friends and good times and was on the dance team and just all the things. And then the principal pulled my brother and I into the office. And my parents weren't sure what to do yet. We had just moved. So they still kept sending us to Oak Ridge until they figured out if they were going to pay tuition or move or whatever. And the principal pulls us into the office and says, you need to get your things and leave now. Your parents are on the way. And we were like, what? And he was like, yeah, we know you've moved. You've got to leave. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't even like, we're sorry, your parents should have done this or
Yeah.
that. It was literally like he
They
was
didn't fill out the right
evicting
forms.
us.
You don't
Yeah.
know what those
Right.
forms are.
But
It was
not
just
even like, it's okay, we'll work through this. It was like,
Gosh.
you got to go get your backpack. And we
Mean
were
girl
like,
stuff.
right. And we were like, okay. And so that was, that same feeling. And then when my husband and I got married, my best friend was supposed to be in my wedding. We were best friends. I grew up riding horses, which is like my whole life. And so she was my best friend from 3rd grade and like ditched me at my wedding as my maid of honor. And I to this day have not talked to her since.
Wow.
And it blew my mind. Like I just didn't expect it. It came out of nowhere. We weren't fighting. We get along. I mean, she was like a sister. We were part of each other. So that was like, I mean, there's a picture in my wedding pictures where I'm sobbing. My ex-husband's holding me because she just totally blew my mind at my wedding. So there went her. Then my senior year of high school, my dad left my mom, and there was that, and then my family, and then my 22-year marriage to my best friend. And so I've realized in therapy, it hit me. Actually, I wasn't even that deep in therapy yet, but it was like I'd been diving into all this psychological stuff, and I saw something, and it struck me. I didn't sleep. I did not sleep for a year. And I mean, I was laying awake and I thought, oh my gosh, everything that's ever meant anything to me was like suddenly ripped away. And so when I felt like something was trying to pull away, I didn't even know I was doing it. And I would try to do better laundry or do better food or do it or talk or pet or let's go on a date or and nothing was ever right because I wasn't going about it the right way. So all of that to say, yeah, we didn't agree on things, but it takes 2 to tango. And again, it could have been fixed, but I was guilty too of things, And so I think that's so important. I cannot scream this enough to figure out why you tick the way you do and fix the things you don't like and fix the things that are wrong. Because then if we all did that, we all might lower the divorce rate.
Yeah. Lower divorce rate. And I've come to realize I had a very trying last year, just health stuff aside,
Yes,
just
you have.
friends, relationships, being cognizant that, everything is for a season.
Mm-hmm.
What's that scripture you told me about seasons?
Mm-hmm.
Something you like, which scripture
No,
friend?
no.
It was something you shared with me about, there's a season and time for everything and everyone.
I was talking
Oh.
about, I said, this is probably what I said because I know what I said. So it's like, I'm so glad that it says that there is a time and a season and not a day and an hour.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I had to put a limit on it within the realm of 24 hours or a realm of 24 hours, I don't know if I could do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
And so with that, just knowing that it's okay when a chapter is ending, because as humans, we want to fight, we want to save it.
Yeah.
And sometimes the Lord is like, hey, you asked for signs. I'm giving it to you right here,
Yeah.
Tara, Brittany, Gentry. Stop fighting against me.
Also, it's like restoration. We've taught my whole lives growing up in church that restoration had to look a certain way, or else it wasn't restoration. And then all of a sudden, restoration and reconciliation, like restoration doesn't always look like reconciliation. In redemption, God redeems the time. And so restoration, and that's exactly what's happened with me. I mean, we just celebrated 9 years. I have 2 amazing boys.
Beautiful boys.
Awesome.
About to be 5 and 7.
Yeah.
It sounds like it tastes like vinegar when I say it. But going on to 10, we just celebrated like 10 years of like anniversary, not our 10-year marriage anniversary, 10 years of knowing each other or dating. And it's just amazing. Like I wouldn't trade life for anything, but it's amazing. Yeah. It's great to intently get to know your story and listen to why people do the things they do, why they act the way they were. It's like,
yeah, because I can look back and see like, my faith, Oklahoma, it rooted it. My parents were raised Baptist, but that school I was in was a Church of God.
Yep.
And Church of
That'll
God,
do it.
Yeah, Church of God in Oklahoma is a little different than Church of God here. I feel like it kind of waved on over here a little bit, but it was, all the gifts, all the things, all of it.
All of it.
Yeah, that's probably a whole nother podcast.
So many podcasts.
Tara part 2.
Yeah. But I feel like, I was telling Brittany a little bit about this before. Like, I had dreams and visions at 6, and I vividly remember them, and now I know that's a gift of prophecy.
Sure.
And I still have them, and I have dreams, and like I've had some dreams that are like legit. Like one time I had a dream that a friend of mine was fighting with his daughter. When I woke up at 1:30, I was like, oh my gosh, next day, I kid you not, he says, I was fighting with my daughter till 1:30 in the morning. I woke up at 1:30 and I'm like, you're not going to believe this, Yeah. And I mean, it's stuff like that constantly. I had a dream that my daughter had a brain tumor. She had a concussion. So I pushed the issue to get an MRI. I didn't tell him I've had a dream we need an MRI because they would have thought I was nuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I told, her dad and I told some friends, I'm like, I'm really put like something, this is my opportunity to see what this is about.
Sure.
She has Chiari. She had something in her brain. It's mind blowing. I mean, it's just mind blowing how God, and all of that was rooted in Oklahoma. And then when I came to Oak Ridge, and then my network started growing, and I didn't know I needed a network. I just made friends,
Yeah.
And now I look back and I see, but my network isn't my money maker. My network is how I help people. My network is how I piece people together. Sometimes even when I have nothing to do with it. Oh, you all need to connect.
Yes.
It's that, and it's made my life richer in such a way that money can't ever touch. And things that my family how I probably would have grown up in Illinois, getting out of Illinois, not because they're bad or anything, but because what God has for me is different. The people that have been in my path and had influence over my life, the people that have given me hope wouldn't have happened had I not been ripped out of those seasons.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. And so I can look back. You can always look back because hindsight's 20/20, but I always love looking back and seeing how God mapped out your life, or mapped out this, or mapped out that. Because in the midst of it, you're like, "But I didn't want that." But God's like, "I made you turn left because and it makes sense
because He knows greater's on the other side, and He can see that.
Yes.
When I first got together with my wife, one of the things she said is God wastes nothing.
That's right.
Every opportunity, every experience, every hurt.
He doesn't waste anything. And I'll never forget when she first said that. She's like, because I'm very, very like, just tell my story, because it's like, I'm going to throw it all out there.
Yeah.
And if you still want to get to know me after that, ball's in your court. You can't say that I kept something from you.
Yeah.
Lord Jesus knows that no one can say that I kept
Mm-hmm.
anything from them. But she said, we all have baggage, you know, and she said, I'm just so thankful that we have each other to unpack it with.
Yes.
But she said, he wastes nothing. Nothing is wasted. And,
Absolutely.
and that's just stuck with me for the last 10 years.
Yeah. And sometimes Satan works at you. I mean, he's always trying to work at you, especially if you have something big for God. But sometimes God lets you walk through that hard stuff where you think it's Satan's opposition because he needs to show you something.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know that next level, you're not going to make it. You'll drown.
Yes.
And he knows. So I'm with her on that. Everything, every bit of it.
Happens for a reason, and I like to believe that it's all for my good.
That's right. And you know, God's not surprised that the devil threw us a curveball. He knows. And he allowed Job to be tested, right? So sometimes he allows us to be tested. And that's a question that's been, raised a lot lately. Well, if God exists, why does he let bad things happen to kids? Why does God let this happen? God is God. Satan comes at you hard. And just like we have free will to choose him,
Volition.
we all have free will to choose if we do good or bad.
Yes.
And sometimes people choose bad. The good part is that God can restore it all. And even since we're on the topic of divorce, and I feel like somebody's gonna be listening to this that's just like really hurting. I just have that feeling.
Yeah, talk to them.
And I feel like, maybe you didn't want your divorce like me, but God can 100% restore you to a place of faithfulness and happiness, but you have to let him. And I see the people message me, how did you do it? How he did this? How long are you going to stay mad?
Yeah.
That's good.
How long are you going to let that happen? When you're walking in it, why choose to be miserable and put your kids in the middle? Just don't. And if it's hard, go scream in a pillow, go get a friend and vent, type it out, write it out, whatever you've got to do to get it off your
Sweat
chest.
it out.
Yes, sweat it out. I was in the gym all the time, 3 times a day sometimes. Do whatever you've got to do. Just do it. But make the right decision, and it'll kind of get you over the hurdle. I feel like this is really with anything, not just divorce, but for that person that's listening for that.
Get you through that barrier.
Yeah.
And you will break
it.
That's right.
Tera, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. It has been a pleasure.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I can't believe we followed each other and supported one another for so long
I
on
know.
social
and
media.
You're
Never
such an
met.
inspiration.
Thank you.
You need to know that.
Thank you.
I think this is the start of a really big thing for you.
Hey, it's God.
It is.
Oh, you made me cry because the Lord's been good, and I can cry and shout and praise Him.
You can do it.
Hey, I remember back our very first interaction that I really loved was you were asking for everybody's favorite praise songs. And this was before I revealed that I was fighting cancer, and I was like constantly giving you. I was like, okay, I'm going to overwhelm her.
No.
But you loved them, and you knew so many of them too. So
Yeah.
if there's anyone listening, if like Tera said, you're going through a hard time, you are facing a divorce, in the middle of one, or trying to overcome one, just know that you're not alone.
No.
And we will plug Tera in our social media page. So if you get messages from women or men across the country, that's what it's for.
Absolutely. I'm open to it.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you
guys
for having me.
tuning in. You're welcome.
This was fun.
It was.
That's great.
Gentry, you want to say anything? I know you also got divorced and you're on the other side of it.
I'm just here. Like, I think I've said a lot this time. I think I've said a lot.
Like, I've said my piece on it. Yes, Okies. I had no idea.
We're going to have to talk about
what
that.
in the world?
Yeah. Well, shout out to Oklahoma out there. We like to shout out some people at the end of every episode. And again, thank you guys for listening to Barrier Breakers. We will see you again next time.
Absolutely. Thank you.